Over the last couple of years, we've seen some of the biggest companies in the world slash thousands of jobs. Microsoft, Meta, UPS, Amazon, Morgan Stanley, banks, consultancies, all pulling back headcount at scale. Now the question is, are these just panic cuts? Or is something deeper going on? And more importantly, what can we learn from it? Because if the biggest, most liquid companies on earth are restructuring their teams, realigning how they spend, and moving talent offshore or into automation, it tells us a lot about where the future of business is actually going. So what's actually happening? These aren't layoffs because companies are failing. In most cases, they're incredibly profitable. Microsoft, for example, is investing billions into their AI infrastructure, and yet they still cut around 6,000 staff members last year. When you start to pull back the layers, the reasoning behind this becomes quite obvious. They're reallocating capital. They've got the data, the systems, and the visibility to say, these roles no longer justify their cost, not in London, not in New York. So they're trimming where the value to cost ratio doesn't make sense anymore, and they're shifting those functions to automated systems, to more efficient offshore teams, or removing them entirely. From an outside viewpoint, it could look like panic cutting, CEOs gone mad, total chaos. But when you start to understand the full circle of the changes that are being made at these big firms, it's clear that it's just operational discipline. And I know what most of you will think, large businesses operating like large businesses, nothing new. But this actually does get quite worrying when you look at it through our lenses. The average everyday UK company. Most small and medium-sized businesses just don't have that infrastructure. They don't have internal automation pipelines, or access to offshore teams, or specialist tax optimization. They've got an office, a small team, ever-rising costs, and no real visibility into what should stay in-house and what absolutely shouldn't. So while the big players are cutting intelligently to preserve growth margins, SMEs are either standing still, or worse, still trying to hire locally into roles that shouldn't even exist at UK wage cost anymore. It's not negligence. It's a structural disadvantage that in 2025 especially has a real chance of being the rod that breaks the camel's back. The danger here is simple. Big companies are cutting fast, restructuring smart, and building leaner teams around global delivery and automation. SMEs are still trying to make 2010 cost structures work in 2025 economic conditions. They're still hiring admin into full-time salaried roles, still relying on manual processes, still absorbing rising overhead without the systems to reduce it. And the truth is, if the companies with infrastructure and cash reserves are saying this model doesn't work anymore, then what happens to the businesses without those buffers? The answer's already showing up in the numbers. Higher failure rates, cash flow gaps, hiring freezes, overhead bloat. Not because the business is broken, but because the operating model is outdated. So what are these systems that the big companies are using to do this? They're not secret, they're just stacked. Things like offshore operational support, VA teams handling back-end admin, purchase orders, logistics, and dock control, and internal automations, Zapier-style setups, internal tools replacing manual repeatables. Also tax and R&D structures that claw back hundreds of thousands through claims, restructuring, and efficiency audits. These are the tools big businesses have embedded into their day-to-day. And for a long time, these tools weren't really accessible to SMEs. No bandwidth, no expertise, no clean way to implement. But that's what's changing now. Because when we go into SMEs, the aim isn't just to hand them a VA or fix one spreadsheet. It's to rebuild the operating logic, give them the same kind of systems that the big companies have quietly been using to stay profitable in a collapsing economy. Here's the real frustration. Most SME owners know something's not working. They feel the pressure, the margins thin, the team's stretched. Every month is a grind, but no one's given them the blueprint for what to change. They've been sold. Just hire more, just grow revenue, just get better at marketing. And none of that works if your back end is bloated and inefficient. You don't solve that by working harder. You solve it by working smarter. And that means bringing in the same kind of operational strategy that's been standard inside big business for years. The only difference now is finally available at SME scale, and the ones who adopt it calmly and quietly are going to outperform everyone else in their space. So this isn't a warning video, it's not a pitch, it's just a diagnosis. The economy has changed. The cost of labour, overhead, and inefficiency has gone up. Big businesses have responded by trimming, by shifting, by systemizing. SMEs haven't, not yet. But now, for the first time, they actually can. The question is, who's going to do it early and buy themselves years of runway? And who's going to keep playing the old game until it's too late?